Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome back to Isabelle's Talk Show. It's Monday, so obviously we are here. And today I've got a special guest coming from the US. And I would like to welcome Chidima Anusiem. Welcome, Chidima.
Thank you so much for having me, Isabelle. I like this space we're in. I like this energy.
So before we start with a fantastic...
I like this energy.
Oh, yes. Before we start with the new topic, of today, I would like to introduce Chidima, because Chidima resides in Atlanta, in Georgia, with her beautiful 7-year-old daughter. She's a major foodie and enjoys trying out different restaurants or cooking special recipes. She also enjoys all things music, including dancing and attending concerts. I know exactly what you mean. I love that too. Chidima has spent the last 5 years as a women's empowerment speaker and divorce and breakup recovery coach. She's passionate helping women heal from broken relationships. This is because she too experienced finding the support needed during her healing journey. So Chidima promised herself when she found the answer to holistic healing, she would reach back and help as many women as she could do the same. This passion birthed a newest program, From Divorce to Diamonds, designed for women looking to create the radiant life they desire after divorce or breakup. And we will talk about the program later. So welcome again, Chidima. And today you're going to talk about positioning your heart to love again. Tell us about it.
Yes. And thank you for that warm introduction. Oh my goodness. So yes, I'm super passionate about all things relationship, all things love, all things healing, because that was my personal story. And so, like you said, my number one passion is how do I reach back and help someone else? Because what I find, there's a lot of women and men that have gone through broken relationships and they just don't have the knowledge or the tools to rebuild their life. And I figured it out. Why don't I, save you the hassle of spinning your wheels, all the heartbreak and pain for year after year, and I can help support you, to do that. So today is a topic I'm super passionate about, excited about, on position your heart to love again. Because let's face it, when you go through broken relationships, especially if you go through a series of broken relationships, you can become jaded by your experience, right? You can get to a space where you're like, okay, there's no good people out there. I'll never be in love again, right? You start sabotaging relationships because you just assume they're going to go bad because they always have, right? And if we get really honest with ourselves, a lot of that started before you even met your romantic partner. A lot of those mindset has happened in your childhood, right? Mm-hmm. And so this whole notion of positioning your heart to love again is not necessarily just for romantic relationships. When we have issues with love, it's issues with love that we've experienced very early on in our life. And so everything I'm going to talk about today does not only just, transfer to a romantic relationship, but even friendships, even relationship with your parents or your siblings, whatever the case may be. Positioning your heart to love again, positioning your heart to be clear of all the toxic, emotions, the anger, the unforgiveness is super important. Okay. So one of the first steps I would say that's one of the most important steps is exactly what I just said. Clearing your heart of all of that toxic, emotions, energy, bitterness, lack of trust, low self-esteem, hopelessness. When you are hurt, when someone has injured your heart, those are the type of emotions that are symptoms of a hurting heart, right? And so one thing that I notice is that people are so quick to invest in tangible things, cars, homes, even invest in their business. They don't invest in the preparing of their heart. But yet your heart is what drives everything else, your decisions, your relationships. Why aren't we as eager to invest in our heart than we are in other tangible things, right? So when you are preparing to position your heart to love again, let me put my heart first. Let me, what is my heart telling me needs to change right now? Who needs to go out of my life? What are some things that I do? How do I show up in relationships? Because let's be honest, we don't always show up perfectly. We sometimes have a part to play as to why our relationships aren't working, right? So when I say invest in your heart, get a coach like myself, yours truly, a divorce recovery or breakup recovery coach, get a therapist, a pastor, whatever the case may be, to help support you in that healing journey of your heart. Because just like you could suffer a gunshot wound and you need time to rehabilitate and heal, it's the same way that our heart needs that time. And we need to be, not only time will heal it, but intentional time, being intentional with the time that you're giving your heart to heal by having the proper tools to set your heart back into a place where it can receive and give love again. So I know that was a mouthful, but I'll stop to see if you have some questions.
No, but it's true that sometimes I see other people jumping from one relationship to another, which doesn't work, and another one which doesn't work. And so you as a coach, obviously, would you advise to take your time, as you said, invest in your heart, take your time, clear the toxic relationships? So time is for me important, as I would say, to heal and understand what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. Time is so important. Time is your best friend, but time should not happen in a vacuum. That means time, but intentionality.
Yes.
Taking the proper actions, like I said, going, seeing a coach, all those things to help clear your heart. Pray, for me, I'm a woman of faith, so I believe in prayer and all those things that kind of help move your heart along to a healthier place. But your point about layering relationships is so, prominent. A lot of people don't want to deal with the condition of their heart. So they just mask it. They just date this person and date this person because there is a void. When you are hurt, when you have gone into a broken relationship, you're in pieces in some aspect. And there's a void that you're looking to feel, something that you want to help you bring your heart back together. And so you're going to things that aren't necessarily helping you, like excessive relationship, excessive drinking, eating, drugs, whatever the case may be. We do all of those in excess with this attempt to try to heal, but we're not using the proper tools. And so when you're a serial dater, that's just another one of those excessive activities that you do to try to escape. You don't want to face your demons. You don't want to deal with your childhood stuff. You don't want to be honest with yourself about how you showed up poorly. You don't want to deal with that. And so you want to, basically, you're running away. But what you're also doing is you're creating patterns of broken relationships because you're not really dealing with the root issue. And so now you have a pattern that you're finding yourself in, and it brings you back to the place where we talked about earlier, where now you're opposed to relationships. Now you feel like all relationships are hurtful or toxic because you're in this hamster wheel, so.
Yeah, and that there is a thing as well, being in a difficult environment as well as a child, that can have an impact on the way you see love, right? A divorced environment where people are arguing, the parents are arguing. So for the kids, it's just like, well, in that case, what is love? What is a relationship or a healthy relationship? So
yeah, absolutely. Because the thing is, when you position in your heart to love again, you have to first understand what love even means.
So what does it mean then?
What does it mean? Again, I'm a woman of faith, so I kind of look at the scriptural definition of love as my guide. I mean, everyone has a different belief system, and I understand that. But there are some characteristics of love that are universal. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love doesn't keep any records of wrong. It's not easily angered. It's not boastful. When you think about that, that is what love is. So if love does not supposed to hurt.
Yes.
Love is supposed to heal. Love feels good. It's not supposed to feel bad. Now, there's some aspects of love like discipline. We discipline our children because we love them and they don't feel good at the moment, but the outcome is good, right? But overall, love is a very positive experience. And some people don't have the right experience with love that they've been abused as a child. Maybe they were molested. Maybe they were, talked down to or yelled at often as a child and criticized. And so when they're in these romantic relationships, they feel like this is love because that's what my mom did. That's what my dad did.
Exactly.
No one really taught them or showed them what that's supposed to feel like. So when I mention the things like love is kind and patient, if you're not experiencing any of those things in your relationship, any of those characteristics of love, chances are you're probably something really, really toxic. And it's time
because
to ask
you're going
yourself
to
this question.
repeat what you know because you don't know
Exactly.
otherwise. So and that's why for a child could be a relationship with their parents or like a love relationship as an adult. You can only love the way you've been loved.
Exactly. I mean, some people use that as an excuse to say, well, I wasn't taught how to
Yes.
love, and so I don't know how to do it. There are so many resources out there to educate yourself. There's so many people, coaches, therapists, people out there, even other, friends or people that you may know personally that are an example of that you can ask questions and be around, get a mentor. You don't have to be a victim to your past. You are at a space as an adult to make a conscious decision to say, I don't want to live like this anymore. I want to learn how to love, and I'm going to take the steps necessary to do so, so.
Yeah, so the first tip you gave us was to clear all the toxic emotion and even the toxic relationships in a way, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's not easy, not for everybody. Just to say, hey, you know what? I've realized that I'm in that relationship and it's toxic, and I'm just going to move on. But by staying in that space, they will never move on if they don't change that. So it is difficult because sometimes people are scared. They don't want to be abandoned. They don't want to be left alone. They put up with a lot instead of thinking about themselves. So how would you say, you as a coach, what you say to your clients about clearing the toxic emotion? What would you say to them? What to do? How would they do it?
Yeah, so it's different ways. It depends on the situation. It depends how deep it is, because there's some things as a coach, I'm not a therapist, right?
Yeah.
So those some things that, especially if it's deep rooted childhood things, all of that, I may refer to a therapist. However, one of the steps that you can do to clear that energy is, first of all, acknowledge that it's there, right? Acknowledge that you have an issue. Case in point, if it's unforgiveness, there is a process to forgiving someone.
Yeah.
First of all, is mentally making a decision to forgive, because forgiveness is not a feeling, it's a decision, right? When you make the decision to forgive, you start to then set in orbit this energy that you're putting out there that, you know what, I'm not going to give this person back what they gave to me. Right. I'm going to release this person from my heart and my mind and my spirit. So I'm not carrying this burden. I'm not going to talk bad about them, because, when you're unforgiving, it comes out in your mouth too. It comes in your attitude, your body language. So when you make a decision to forgive in your thoughts and in your speech, your heart then says, you know what? You're not thinking bad about that person. You're not speaking bad about that person. So I'm not going to feel bad. So the feelings start to follow suit after you've decided and you've channel that energy between your thoughts and your speech. It begins to manifest in your heart, and then all of a sudden it's now easier to deal with that person because you've went through the process. And that's a very quick example. There is a process of forgiveness that I teach in my course, but that's an example of ways to start clearing that energy, having a conversation with that person, sharing with them how they hurt you, or writing a letter, whatever the case they need to move that energy out of your heart, and then release them so that you can be free, because unforgiveness, obviously, we know, creates health issues. It creates all types of issues that, you have to live with because you've chosen to hold someone hostage in your heart. So again, that's an example of how you would then begin to clear that energy and then invite peace, joy, love into your life.
I like what you said about writing a letter, because that's what I
Mhm.
advise my clients to, and just say, okay, you don't want to be face to face with a person, but just write a letter, right? And you're not going to give the letter, it doesn't matter, but just put everything on the table, and just say to them, okay, we're talking about love and relationship, and it could be like parents, kids, or adults, like a romantic relationship, and just say, well, okay, the way you hurt me, the way I would have liked it to be, the way I wanted our relationship to be, and just write and write and write and get all those feelings out.
Yeah.
So, and then when you've done, the exercise can be you sit somewhere, you put a chair in front of you as if the person was there, read it out, and
Mm-hmm.
just let the words flow.
Yes.
Or if you don't want to, just burn the
Yeah.
letter, because fire
Absolutely.
is really good.
That's
So
exactly, yes, that's exactly the process I share as well. It's very effective. And something as simple as crying. You know, I think a lot of people don't realize, especially adults, how cleansing that is. You know, that's like the liquid release of toxic emotions at times when we cry, and when we refuse to cry because we feel like it's a sign of weakness, or, you know, I'm too grown for them to, you know, this, we're robbing ourselves of moving that negative energy out. You know what I mean? So as often as you need to allow yourself to grieve,
mhm.
because what happened to you was real. It was real to you. It hurt for real, and it deserves to have a period of mourning and
Yes.
grieving, have a
Mhm.
proper burial so you can
Mhm.
move on. The reason why you're not overcoming, because you never really buried it, you never funeralized it. So
Mhm. That's true. So, is there anything else we could do to reposition? So we've done the cleansing, we've forgiven, and what else? Because
yeah,
sometimes
so
we're afraid of going there. Dating again.
yes. So I call that tearing down the walls. Okay. Because we put these walls up like no one's ever going to
Oh
hurt me
yes.
again, because they can't even get to me in the first place because I have all these walls because I don't want to be hurt. Right. But, you know, just like if you, I always use the example of getting in a car accident. Let's say you got in a car accident, you were badly injured and took you months to heal and recover. Um, and the thought of getting back in a car traumatizes you because you're like, I don't want that to happen again. But the only way to overcome your fear of getting in the car and driving is to get in the car and drive, right? Like, go slow,
Yeah.
but get in the car, right? And it's also important that you have a partner that understands what you experience. So they're not speeding, because that could
Mm.
trigger you.
Oh
So it's
yes.
the
Bye
same thing in
bye.
a relationship. There you go. Yeah, that's the same thing in a relationship, is that say, listen, I just got out of something. I want to take it slow. It's okay to communicate that to this person so they understand, like, okay, I don't need to be talking about marrying you in 3 months, right? I need to give this some time because I'm going to scare you, right? It's going to be scary. But love is a risk. Love is scary, but it's worth it. It's worth giving it another chance because it always comes back around again, but it needs to find you ready. And putting yourself in a position where you're open to meeting people, even just making friends, platonic relationships. It's all energy. It's all energy that draws love in. It doesn't matter the type of love. Love is love. It's just different versions of it. But when you put yourself in a position where you start to, you know, speak to strangers and you greet strangers that come, you know, come into your space, or you go out with friends, all of those things are starting to pull walls down and starting to bring create an energy in you where you're more inviting, and people
Yes.
are drawn naturally to that type of inviting energy. And that's when you begin to pull, you know, potential friends and potential romantic partners into your life. So
Mm-hmm. Well, there is an issue is trust. After a breakup, it's just like, oh my God, I trusted him or I trusted her and it didn't work out. So I'm
mhm,
not saying next one, next one, next one, next one, but the next one coming is just like, oh my God, ooh, breaks on
mhm.
trust.
Trust, it takes time. And one thing about trust, you have to give people little bits at a time. I don't want to, I hate to call it test, but you want to see, okay, if I tell this person this thing, if I tell them about my past, how would they react? And if they cover you in that moment and they're gracious to you in that moment, they sit with you in that moment of you sharing your past and your trauma, everything you went through, then that was a little test that they passed. Like, you know what, maybe I can trust that person. And so you give a little more and a little more. It's a gradual thing. Because one thing about trust, no one is expected to trust quickly. I don't tell anyone to do that. I say, take your time, ask questions, watch how they interact with other people, because sometimes we can be in this, we can have tunnel vision when we're in a relationship with someone that we don't realize some of the toxic traits they were already showing you. They just weren't doing it to you, but they were doing it to other people around them, right? So look at their resume, relationship resume, and see how they've handled other people. And that can kind of give you the confidence to open your heart up a little bit more to them or not, you know? So.
Of course, yeah, it's take the time really, and as you say, communicate with the new person and just say, you know what, slowly but surely, and slowly, just like having a look and to trust, and because it is. I mean, for me, a relationship, romantic or not romantic, is based on trust. Otherwise, it's not healthy. It's a toxic relationship. So if I can't trust the person, there isn't a relationship as far as I'm concerned. So in a loving relationship,
tell them what you need. And I agree, like tell them what you need, you know, set those boundaries. I need you to be patient with me. You know, I need someone that's going to be patient with me, you know, not yelling at me, right? There's some things you have to have those boundaries, because how people treat your boundaries is a very strong indication of whether or not they need to be in your life in the first place. If they constantly are trying to push your boundaries and saying, you know what, I don't really want you to come over every weekend. I like my time and space. I like to spend time to myself sometimes. And I just always want to be in your space and always, that is an indication like, I don't know. I don't know if this person is really my person, right? And that's also to, you know, friends can do the same thing. So, you know, putting boundaries up, the proper healthy boundaries in your life, having those rules of engagement, if you will, and seeing how people respond to them is a good indication that somebody you can bring in close and trust as well. So
totally. So setting boundaries, and it's for everybody. It's not just like a romantic relationship, because it's just a way to say, well, that's my need, and putting myself first, and then after that, seeing how we are compatible or not, because we might not have the same vision of life, right? We are not going to walk at the same rhythm. I know there is that attraction, and sometimes we mix in a way, or we get confused about attraction and love, right? So
absolutely. And you said something really powerful, is putting yourself first. And I want to talk a little bit about that, because I don't mean in a way that you're being selfish, right? That's not what I mean. But putting yourself first is one of the most powerful things you can do in a preparation for love, because what you're basically doing is saying, I'm no longer going to walk around with my cup half empty. I'm going to be full. I'm going to validate myself. I'm going to affirm myself. You can use the 5 love languages on yourself, right? People don't really talk about that, but you can, you know, give yourself gifts. You can spend quality time, physical touch. You can go get your massage, whatever the case may be. What are you doing for yourself? And some of us are more abusive to ourselves than the people around us. The way we talk to ourselves, the way we criticize ourselves, the way we allow ourselves to be in these nasty relationships because we don't value who we are. You know, some of us won't even be our own best friend. You understand? And that's really sad. So the goal is really, how can I be my own best friend? What would I tell my best friend? That's what I need to tell myself. That's how I should treat myself. You know, giving yourself a makeover, upgrading yourself, changing your wardrobe. Those are all things that you begin to put yourself first. And it's something about when you show up as yourself and you're confident in yourself, there's a weight that you carry that
Mm-hmm.
people are like, ooh, like all of a sudden people respect you. All of a sudden people are understanding and abiding by your boundaries. Like when you don't do that, you have no weight. So people treat you anyhow. They toss you up and down. But when you have a weight to yourself, they're like, ooh, I know I can't treat her like that or him like that, you know?
Or they actually sometimes disappear because they can't have their own way. So, and that's good because it means that that's not the right person for you.
Absolutely. It runs off the wrong people and attracts the right people.
Exactly.
And when you love yourself, they will love you, you know. But when you're constantly pulling, fill my cup, compliment me, spend time with me, that depletes people and it makes them run.
Yes.
It's an anxious, desperate energy that people typically don't like unless they are you know, the same type of person as you and they desire that neediness as well. They want someone to need them. And so then you get into
Exactly. Yeah.
something toxic too, because you begin to be codependent and no one's standing on their own 2 feet in a healthy way.
Yeah.
So I can go on about that, but that self-love or falling in love with yourself is another key component of preparing your heart for love. So when love shows up, you're already full and it's
Mhm.
basically the whipped cream on top of your sundae,
Exactly.
right? And they're like, oh, it's clean in here. It's beautiful here. I want to stay here. I want to be a part of your life. You're exuding peace and confidence and joy. And I want to be a part of that. So,
Uh-huh. And I want to go back to the 5 languages of love. And what I do sometimes as well with my clients, I ask them, I do the quiz with them, the questionnaire, and I ask them as well, how do you want to be loved? You know, because sometimes we don't know. We haven't really sat down with ourselves, like thinking, okay, well, you know what? I don't want that. Or sometimes we know what we don't want, but we don't know what we want. So why don't we do the other way around and just say, okay, well, I want to be loved that way.
mhm,
So
absolutely.
so just writing as well, just like saying, okay, I want to be loved that way, and just started like I won't put up with that, and I want to be loved this way, and I want somebody caring, I want somebody who's tactile, you know, and describe the love you are looking for.
Absolutely. You are like on point with all of this. I mean, being clear about what you want in the first place. Because people say, I want love, right? But again, like we just mentioned earlier, that's relative because it depends on your experience. But what is it that fuels you? What is it that causes you to be your best self in a relationship? What are the things that don't? Those should be your non-negotiables, and you should be very clear on those. That's not something you want to necessarily compromise, as long as they're reasonable, though, because some people can be unreasonable with their non-negotiables. Him chewing his gum too loudly is not a non-negotiable, maybe for some people. But someone that's not honest, someone that's, again, doesn't speak to you in a respectful manner, those are some really strong non-negotiables that you should stand on. And what I find is that there's some women that, or men that feel like, okay, I'm running out of time, I'm getting older, or my biological clock is ticking, or everybody around me is finding someone. So I'm just going to settle with this. Like, it's okay, I'll make it work. No, no, no. Your non-negotiables are there for a reason. They are the roadmap to show you that this is the type of person that will cause you to be your best self and cause you to flourish. And when you go against that, you're basically signing up for the opposite, right? So you're so right in getting very clear about what you want, what you don't want, what that looks like to you. Getting around other married couples or other couples that you see have similar to what you desire. Ask them questions, sit with them, feel what that energy, that love feels like. So when you get with someone and you start to feel those similar feelings, ooh, this is along the lines of what I wanted. I was able to feel it first before I actually came to my path. So when I see it, I don't miss it. It's familiar, right? So yeah.
Yeah, and in a way you will attract it as well. So because you will have had that feeling, and if there is something coming and it's not that feeling, well, that's a no. and that's not that person. So that's true. So wow, anything else you can tell us about positioning our heart?
Yeah, I would definitely say just a couple of things. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but just to give you all my 7. So we talked about allowing your heart to heal. We talked about falling in love with yourself, tearing down the walls, getting clear about what you want. But there's 2 more things, well, 3 more things. One is filling your purpose in life, because we weren't all created to be married or to be in a romantic relationship, but we were created for a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
We were created to do something or leave our fingerprint here on the earth before we leave. That is where our focus, number 1, should be, not into getting in all these relationships. Although we are communal people, we desire relationship, it's important. But if we're find ourselves single or something to that nature, that's not like the end of life, right? There's so much more life to live out there. And one thing I always say is that doing your purpose creates an aroma that creates your purpose, that draws your purpose partner.
Yes.
When you're living life, it draws your life partner, it creates an aroma, right? Because you're doing what you were created to do. And I don't know about you, anytime I'm doing my purpose, I'm just so like, it's the most fulfilling thing. I'll get lost.
Beaming and just like flying and yeah.
I mean, it gives you almost the same type of like endorphins that you would get from going on a first date. Like it is equally as fulfilling, right? That is one thing. Another thing is canceling negative speak or beliefs about relationships. What we talked about earlier today, there's no good men out here, there's no good women out here, all men cheat, all women nag, whatever the case may be. Getting rid of all these false beliefs, that's energy, it begins to block. And then people can't see you, they're not drawn to you because you have this negative energy because of your negative beliefs. But if you begin to tell yourself, I will be married again one day. Love will find me again one day. I am worthy of love. I don't have to be perfect to be loved. And although we're saying all these things today about how to position your heart to love, this is a process. It doesn't mean that if you don't do all these things, you'll never find love. No, we all, just the way we are deserving of love, and we can still be loved, right? I think that's the most important thing. And then last but not least, again, like I said, I'm a woman of faith. I believe in filling your void, that void in your heart, with God or whoever it is that you believe. But I believe there's always a spiritual component to everything that we do, both practical and spiritual. And it's something about when you allow yourself to go inward spiritually, it reveals the places in your heart, like your character, that you need to work on that a little bit. You need to work on your patience. You need to work on, your attitude, or whatever the case may be, right? It begins to reveal things in you to start preparing your heart to love again by giving you a deeper revelation into self. And so when you fill yourself with God and not with other things, all the dating, all the eating, all the drugs, all the, whatever the case may be, drinking, it puts you in a space where you get really clear about, what else do I need to do? Like, what else is there, in my heart that I'm not seeing, that I need a deeper revelation about. So I would definitely say that as well. So those are my 7 tips on preparing your heart for love again.
Fantastic. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, because I'm in that situation, so I'm just going to apply your 7 little tips.
I know it was really fast and brief. I was putting so much information out there, but I just wanted to give people a taste of, what's included in, divorce and breakup recovery coaching, and some of the things that, we talk through, and the exercises and activities that we do. And this is just really highlights. It gets much deeper. And so I'm available to anyone that, would love to spend more time on the topic. And you can see my website there, authorchi.com, for more information.
Yeah, and the website is as well in the description of the Facebook Live. And so tell us a little bit about your program, From Divorce to Diamonds.
Oh my goodness. Well, I kind of gave you a highlight here today. So definitely, basically what it is giving you all the tools and support and a safe place for you to begin healing after a breakup. It doesn't have to be a marriage. It can be a long-term relationship, whatever the case may be. But what I find is people just don't know how. They know they need to, they just don't know how. Or they just, I don't want to invest in that. I'd rather invest in clothes. I'd rather invest in this, but they don't really understand that they need to also invest in their heart, right? So what we do is we walk you through, clearing those negative emotions. We walk through unforgiveness, rebuilding your confidence, how to get free from relationship validation, meaning I can stand on my own without having to be in a relationship. I desire it, but I don't have to have it. And I can be a full human being, happy and whole by myself in the interim while I wait. But while I wait, I'm enjoying life, right?
Exactly.
And then learning how to embrace your journey. Breakup and all those things, it's really ugly, it's painful, it's messy. But if you look really closely, there's some lessons in it that's really beautiful. And we learn how to pull those out so that we don't waste our pain, right? That we can turn our pain into purpose and turn our pain into power. So my program is a bit of all that put together, 7 weeks. And it just gives you the tools to position yourself to live a much better life after breakup and not get stuck in this cycle of pain and heartbreak. So hopefully this hits home for someone or someone and I would love to hear from you. So.
Right, so you have Chidima's website in the description, so feel free to contact her for some questions, to join a program, which is fantastic. And thank you again, Chidima. And the next speaker next week will be me. I will be talking about choice. And I will be interviewed by my friend Joe Gooding. You've already seen on the talk show. And if you've missed the previous talk show, don't worry. Have a look on YouTube. Look for Phoenix Coaching and Training. Subscribe, click on that little bell, and so you will get the notification. So thank you again, Chidima. And I'll see you all next Monday. So thank you very much. Bye-bye.